Hello word lovers, and in this installment we're going to look at words which were just invented by writers but which later came to be part of normal English. We'll start with the great satirist Jonathan Swift. Famous novel Gulliver's Travels brought us many an invented land, one of them being Lilliput, peopled by small people, so Lilliputian would be their adjective. And if you wanted the opposite for some giants, they were from Brobdingnag, so they would be Brobdingnagian, but you don't hear that one so much. What you do hear is Yahoo, the name of the search engine, which meant hooligan for a while before that. The Yahoos are an unruly race of creatures in Gulliver's Travels, and this is an acronym, yet another hierarchically organised oracle, at least in the internet sense. There's also an island known as La Puta in Gulliver's Travels, which Spanish people find amusing, as this means the prostitute. Somebody pointed this out to Jonathan Swift, and he said, yeah, I know. Philosophies can come from books. Nihilism was a philosophy which was invented as a fiction, and if you use the expression the shape of things to come, you're simply repeating the title of an H.G. Wells novel. That expression hadn't existed before then. Or maybe you know somebody called Wendy. Well, Wendy is an invented name. You probably know which novel Wendy first appeared in. She was Peter Pan's friend. Dickens' novels are peopled with characters with evocative names. So they've made their way into the language. You could be Uriah Heepish. You could be servile. You could hate Christmas and be a miser and be a bit of a Scrooge. Or be careless with money and you'd be a Mr. Micawber. We've already seen nerd as an insult, and that cropped up in one of Mr. Geisel's poems, and here it is. And then just to show them I'll sail to Catrue and bring back an it cutch, a preep and a prue, a nurcle, a nerd, and a seersucker too. So a nerd was originally an invention of an author. Subatomic physics, quarks, they come from Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. 3 quarks for Muster Mark. Sure, he's not got much of a bark. Nobody knows what a quark is, by the way. Finnegan's Wake is an intriguing novel. If you're caught in a loop, a situation you don't seem to be able to get out of, that could be called a catch-22 from Joseph Heller's novel, also the title of the novel. And another title meaning simultaneously no place, which would be a negative prefix "o" or the prefix "eu" meaning happy, plus the word for place, all in Greek, would give us autopos or eutopos, which becomes utopia in English, first used by Samuel Butler in his title. A malapropism is a word which is wrongly used. This comes from Sheridan's play The Rivals of 1775, where the character Mrs. Malaprop simply can't get her vocabulary correct. And similarly, serendipity as an abstract noun was coined by Horace Walpole from a story he heard, a story published in Venice in 1557, so another Venetian etymology. The 3 princes of Serendip seemed that they were always discovering things in a lucky way. A happy accident, serendipity, comes from a very old story. Another very old story is Gargantua and Pantagruel from the French writer Rabelais. Gargantua being very large, hence gargantuan, while syphilis comes from a 1530 poem written by Girolamo Fracastoro. Syphilis is the name of a shepherd boy, and in the course of this poem he becomes affected by this otherwise unnamed disease and thence passes unfortunately into history as a sexually transmitted disease. Pandemonium is not as old as we might think it is. We can see pan, all, demonium, the demons, letting loose all the demons of hell. This is from 1667, and it appears for the first time in Paradise Lost by John Milton, where it is the high capital of Satan and all his peers. In more modern times, 1894 to be precise, we find the stage adaptation of a play by Georges du Maurier, in which one of the characters' names is Trilby. And guess what he popularised? Yes, that was why we called that style of hat a Trilby hat, after the name of a character. I haven't seen Trilby. It sounds a little bit like a whodunit, very popular. The name of this genre was first mentioned in 1930 by Millward Kennedy as he reviewed Half-Mast Murder, which he described as a satisfactory whodunit, all one word. And we'll end with some science fiction and some fantasy. Science fiction gave us Robots from Karel Čapek's play of 1920, where the Czech author introduces us to an automatic worker. Robot comes from the word for to work, работать in Russian. Cyberspace, as far as we know, was first used by William Gibson in a science fiction novel, while the word meme, taking its lead from the already existing gene, with perhaps a little hint towards the word mime, as in mimetics, copyings, was first used in 1976 by Oxford's own Richard Dawkins in The Selfish Gene. A gene being the root word for genetics, the things that gives birth to other things. That's a nice pi root of gene. But as often, to my way of thinking, the champion of giving words to English from fiction is my favourite nonsense writer, Lewis Carroll, who gives us a lot of the so-called portmanteau words, as in smoke plus fog is smog, young upwardly mobile is yuppie, that sort of thing. I can think of at least 3 that I'm pretty sure you would be familiar with, which can trace their way back to that excellent poem. The 3 being a way of laughing, chortle, a way of breathing, whiffle, and a way of moving, galumph. So let's leave it there with the Borogroves all mimsy and the mome raths out gribing.